Us right now is Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow and author of The Coming Collapse of China and China is Going to War, Gordon Chang, back with us. Gordon, great to see you. I want to get your assessment of Antony Blinken's trip to China. He just said face-to-face diplomacy is really important. It seems, though, that the face-to-face is happening only because the U.S. keeps going back to Beijing. I don't see the Chinese officials coming here to try to do that face-to-face diplomacy.
Yes, and this is really counterproductive. And the reason is because the Chinese believe that they now have a veto over at least some areas of American policy. And they've been saying that in their propaganda in the run-up to Blinken's visit. You know, Blinken should understand you can't talk to China. What you have to do is impose costs. And begging is not really a solution to any of this. And he is begging.
Yeah, it definitely does feel that way. Meanwhile, the Biden-Harris re-election campaign says that they will stay on TikTok, even after Biden signed legislation yesterday to force the Chinese parent company ByteDance to sell the social media app or face a ban. TikTok is vowing to challenge this law in court. The legislation, part of the $95 billion foreign aid package, it included $8 billion for the Indo-Pacific region. Gordon, your thoughts?
Well, you know, first of all, on TikTok, we know that TikTok is stealing data from Americans who have it on their phones, and Beijing is using this potentially for blackmail in the future because it's learning all about TikTok users. You know, I know that Biden wants to get reelected, but he does have a responsibility because he is the president of the United States. He knows what the Chinese are doing. He has the power to stop it, and he's not doing it, which means he's probably accepting, from his point of view, it's acceptable that China steals all this data, in addition to all the other problems TikTok causes.
Of course it's acceptable. He hasn't done anything about it. I mean, the Communist Party of China has been stealing intellectual property for decades, and you haven't seen this administration do anything to even hold China to account. How much are we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, Mark, in terms of intellectual property from American business. This has been going on a long time.
The playing field is not level at all. It's a huge problem. But, you know, in regards to this whole TikTok thing, I'd love to get your take on this. I mean, what's so ironic about this TikTok ban is that we want to make sure China doesn't have access to that data because China is a country whereby they confiscate assets, they imprison executives for speaking out against the government. So we want to move that data back to a U.S. company so the U.S. government can confiscate our assets and try to imprison former presidents.
Right.
I mean,
that's unbelievable.
You know, I mean, that's a little. I'd love to get your take on the TikTok thing.
Well, first of all, there's two national security threats. There's the data theft, but also China uses the curation algorithm to promote, for instance, suicide, self-harm, illegal drug use. And, you know, we see all of these protests across American campuses. Of the Hamas videos on TikTok, 96.5% support the terrorist group. So, of course, we're having all of these protests across our country. And this is China.
Yeah.
They did this in the 2020 campaign to hurt Trump. They're doing this now. And we know what's going on.
Yeah, so there's not just data theft, but there's propaganda. And the Communist Party piles on to all of our political conversations. And they're doing it again with negative stories and propaganda about Israel.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been seeing since October 7th, by the way.
And if you go back to 2020, we know that China used TikTok to promote violence on American streets, specifically to foment riots. That's an act of war. That's certainly a federal crime. We can expropriate TikTok without compensation under federal forfeiture statutes. This is important, and we do not have a political system right now that is protecting our country from a known threat.
I think this is also something that the people understand quite well.
It's something that they understand quite well. And one of the things in that branding study I was talking about Donald Trump is that he is known to understand who our true enemies are. And the fact that Donald Trump will talk about China with honesty and Joe Biden will not call them an enemy, he'll say they're just a competitor, I think is a big impact on American voters. But what do you think the impact of that is on our relationship with them? Do you think it's important that we're calling them competitors instead of enemies? Is that?
Well, the Chinese, they know that this is not right because they know that they are involved in what they call a total war against the U.S., a people's war. And so they call us an enemy. And you have a president who won't even call them an adversary. So the Chinese believe that they can take advantage of us. And they've been doing that across the board. So words matter here. And we need a president who is willing to say to the American people, The Chinese regime is an enemy. We need to deal with it. Because if we don't do that, we're not going to take those measures that will defend our country.
I mean, an enemy or an adversary. I mean, at a minimum, an adversary.
At a minimum, an
At a
adversary.
minimum. But they refuse to say what the situation really is. And that stokes more questions about whether or not this guy is compromised. I mean, the House Oversight Committee obviously has reported on millions of dollars that the Biden family has taken in from China. And I'd like to know if some of this soft approach to communist China is because of that. We don't know. And it's also an issue at the border. Jonathan, we've heard that from government officials that the Chinese Communist Party is working with the drug cartels to push fentanyl through the country, into America. And the drug cartels are the secondary player. It's the CCP running the operation.
Yeah, exactly. We have 100,000 drug overdose deaths every single year. And
I'm
this
going to correct
administration,
you. It's not an overdose. It's a poison.
It's a yeah,
okay?
exactly.
It's not. People do not say, "I'm going to take this," and then, "Oh, I took too much." No, they don't know what they're taking. They were poisoned.
Right. So we're having 100,000 per year. This administration doesn't seem to care. And it's interesting. Secretary Blinken was talking about it. And Gordon, I'd like to ask you, because he's talking about cooperation and things like that. But if the CCP wanted to stop the precursors of fentanyl from getting to Mexico and therefore getting here, would they be able to do it, and how long would it take?
It wouldn't take very long. China runs a near total surveillance state. These fentanyl gangs are large, they're well organized, they're international in scope. Beijing obviously knows what they're doing. And some of the fentanyl producers are even state-owned. Chinese diplomats give cover to the gangs. Every container that leaves China is inspected. These gangs launder their proceeds through the Chinese state banking system. They know what's going on. They can stop it, but they don't. And by the way, our president knows what the Chinese are doing. He has the means to stop it. He's not stopping it. So at a minimum, this is 70,000, 100,000, however many overdose or poison deaths.
Thank you.
This is something where the president accepts it. It's acceptable to the president of the United States. If you're less charitable, he approves of it. But in any case, he's morally responsible for all of those deaths in the United States.
All right, Gordon, great knowledge on this subject from you. As always, we appreciate your time this morning.